Under a pale October sun, the hills of Kubar shimmer with the silver green of olive trees, a landscape as old as memory itself. Yet the peace of harvest season has been shattered once again. The crack of gunfire, the hiss of tear gas and the thunder of stun grenades now echo through the groves, drowning out the sound of farmers' laughter and rustling leaves. Israeli forces have moved in to disperse Palestinians gathering for the annual olive picking, igniting another confrontation in this enduring cycle of land, law and resistance. As cameras roll, men and women scatter, crouching behind stone terraces and cars for cover. Soldiers shout orders, the air thick with gas and tension. A wide shot reveals a soldier tossing a stun grenade. Moments later, another fires tear gas toward a group of farmers, their buckets and sacks abandoned in the dirt. The field becomes a haze of smoke and dust, a battleground over olives, justice and the right to work one's own land. Among the farmers is Fahd Abu al-Hajj, a man whose calm voice cuts through the chaos. He explains, "We came following the Israeli Supreme Court ruling that this settler called Gaza, who is in charge of this outpost, cannot prevent people from going into their olive groves, despite the fact there is a gate. So we came today to implement this order and pick the blessed olives." His tone is steady, but his eyes flick toward the soldiers as if bracing for what he already knows will come. The olive harvest in Palestine is not merely an agricultural tradition, it is a declaration of presence. Each branch picked, each tree tended, becomes an act of defiance against displacement. Families pass down their trees through generations, some centuries old, each one a symbol of continuity in a land where continuity itself is contested. But in recent years, these harvests have become flashpoints for violence. Settlers from nearby outposts often accuse farmers of trespassing, while Palestinians point to land deeds and court rulings confirming their ownership. Today, those papers mean little. However, Fahd continues, gesturing toward the gate that divides his grove from the outpost beyond, when we arrived at this dreadful gate, you journalists saw for yourselves how they opened fire on us. Thus, while they claim one thing in court, their actions on the ground tell an entirely different story. His voice trembles, not from fear, but fury. The camera pans to a group of soldiers checking a journalist's credentials, their posture rigid, rifles slung low. The journalist raises a press badge, an image now all too familiar across the occupied West Bank. Behind them, armoured vehicles idle, their engines humming like a warning. In the distance, the silhouette of an illegal outpost looms, a cluster of prefabricated homes, watchtowers and barbed wire cutting across the olive hills. Scenes like this unfold every autumn. The olive tree, once a symbol of peace, has become a front line. Human rights monitors have recorded dozens of assaults on Palestinian farmers since the start of the harvest season, including tree burnings, road blockages and attacks by settlers under military protection. Each incident deepens the sense of impunity and erodes the faith that law can protect those who live under occupation. Yet even amid the smoke and shouting, there is resilience. Women return to gather fallen olives after the soldiers withdraw. Children carry baskets down the slope, their small hands stained with fruit oil and dust. In the far distance, the hills of Ramallah shimmer, a reminder that life persists, even when justice feels far away. The Israeli army insists it acts to maintain order and ensure security for all sides. But for farmers like Abu al-Hajj, those words ring hollow. Security, he says quietly, should not mean taking away our right to live. The journalist's voiceover grows somber as the footage cuts between the grove and the outpost. The visuals speak of imbalance, heavily armed soldiers confronting unarmed farmers with ladders and sacks. The sound of an engine fades into the rustling of leaves, a momentary calm before the next burst of tension. Experts say this pattern is part of a broader struggle over land and identity. More than 60% of the West Bank remains under full Israeli control, and agricultural access often depends on military permits or coordination with settler councils. For many Palestinian families, the olive harvest is their only stable source of income. Losing access to their groves means losing both heritage and livelihood. International observers have repeatedly urged protection for farmers during the harvest. UN reports cite these incidents as violations of international law, warning that attacks on civilians and property in occupied territories could amount to war crimes. But on the ground, accountability remains elusive. Each autumn, the cycle begins anew. Court orders issued, rulings ignored, trees uprooted, and the same groves reclaimed by those who refuse to leave. As dusk settles over Kubar, the smoke clears and the fields fall silent. The camera lingers on Abu al-Hajj, walking slowly through his grove, his hand brushing against the trunk of an ancient olive tree. He pauses, eyes fixed on the distant watchtower. In that image, decades of conflict and endurance converge. A man caught between law and force, tending to the roots that tie his people to this land. The narration closes on a quiet note. In Kubar, as in so many villages across the West Bank, the olive tree is more than a crop. It is a living testimony. For every tree that stands, a story survives. For every harvest interrupted, a new one begins. Amid the ruins and the restrictions, the people of Palestine continue to gather their olives, one branch at a time, a fragile act of hope in a land still waiting for peace.